Well, hello again, everybody. My name is Daniel Ranta, and today I'll be teaming with my colleague once again. Rashad, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Dan. It's great to have this second part. I'm Rashad, leading global companies in terms of organizational learning and knowledge management. My mission really is to build capabilities and expertise to secure the future pipeline of talents and experts.
And I'm a knowledge management consultant, and I've been in this game either consulting or as somebody in charge of knowledge management in large organizations for nearly 3 decades. And I'm also an adjunct professor at the master's degree graduate level at Kent State University and their knowledge management program. So it's great to be with you again. And I want to do a quick orientation and foundation here on what we're doing. In part one, what we were able to do is we were able to cover, in terms of this topic of artificial intelligence, AI, and knowledge management integration strategy, some of the key misconceptions, how you can think about creating a vision for your organization here, and then talking about some of the knowledge management and learning challenges associated with this integration, bringing the two things together. So the key sentence here is where and how generative AI is accelerating and impacting learning and knowledge management processes. And today we generated a lot of excitement in the first post of our recording, a 40-minute session with part one. And we look forward to generating some additional excitement. And this section here, I'm particularly excited about because we're going to really be talking about, as I mentioned, part one rather, where the rubber hits the road and some tangible ways in which you can bring learning and knowledge management use cases and recommendations into play. So let's go ahead and get started as we talk about the use cases and then end today with some executive recommendations. Rashad, let me turn it over to you.
Yes, great. Thank you, Dan. So those 35 use cases are part of a comparative study that I have conducted for 100 companies offering learning and knowledge management solutions based on generative AI. So today we are going to dive into 7 of those with a practical demonstration that I have developed as part of project-based learning. We will develop more on that later on. So let's quickly jump into the first use case, and it is related to learning and coaching.
Okay.
So, Dan, one of the challenges in the learning area is related to onboarding. I like to call it more induction because it's not really about what training I should receive or what resources I should know. It's also about what relationship and what connections I should make into my work so I can better do it and I can better get insights and help. One of the pain points in onboarding is really to have some tailored or a balance between a standard onboarding plan and induction plan and between a tailored onboarding plan. So what are the common trainings and resources that I should know in general, and what are the specific trainings or resources or any capabilities that I should incorporate in my work so I can accelerate the time to competency or accelerate my path toward acquiring a certain competency or a skill. One of those solutions that got my attention, it's coming from Zoom Info and Chorus, and they have developed something called knowledge sensor. So knowledge sensors are really those specific AI applications that can track and sense the learning behaviors. And they can also detect what is the style, what is the pace, what are the preferences for the learner or the employee, and then adapt the onboarding plan to the specificity of that learner. And they can also provide in a further stage some kind of coaching. So based on the actions took by as an employee, they can suggest some kind of actions to help him or her to better be efficient during the learning process and the onboarding. So that was really interesting in the context of learning and onboarding.
You know, one of the things to kind of amplify that a little bit quickly
Yeah,
is that when I talk with organizations and companies, they'll typically ask me one of their pain points might be developing and retaining employees and kind of, as you said, compressing that time to competency. You know, how can we
yeah.
learn faster and either onboarding or with new skill sets, et cetera. So I love how you articulated this use case and you can start to get a feel for how this could make a real difference. Let me go to the second one here.
Yep, this is some cool, funny, interesting use case. At some point of time, we all, especially when we launch a new product or introduce a new technology or deploy a new project, we go through the ideation phase and we go through the brainstorming. And here, Gen AI can help us to augment our ideation and creativity process when suggesting additional questions, we didn't think about them, or even suggesting some examples. So this example coming from Miro, whenever we are doing some kind of mind mapping, we can expand the tree with additional questions, examples, or insights, and to build on that graph. But what really we believe, you and I, it's about the human connection and interaction. So this use case or this tool should really be part of a human conversation and the continuous dialogue. The tool can help us, but also we need to reflect with our peers, colleagues, and different stakeholders in the ideation process.
You know, this is so key. You and I both share the philosophy that if you can position this as part of how people operate and how they collaborate, maybe within communities, et cetera. So it's not a separate activity. It's
Yep.
rather just one of the ways in which people work. Then you have the ability to drive that ideation. And it's exciting to think about how you just make that part of kind of the DNA and part of the cultural makeup, how people operate within an organization. Let's skip ahead to number 3 you want to feature today.
Yes, this is a really a critical use case or one of the most challenges that we face. You know, the silo phenomena. We have our data, we have our knowledge stored in different systems and different teams, and we spend some time searching for the information or doing some kind of integration, and we ask where I can find this information, where is the latest version. There's something called content syndication. So let's say we have a knowledge base where we have developed our FAQs and we developed our, let's say, solutions to a recurrent problems. And then we have another system, customer support or some kind of incident management and or call center. And we got an incident or an issue from the customer, and we need to go to that knowledge base and access the information. Instead of interrupting the flow and the experience to get distracted from my customer support system and go back to the knowledge base, content syndication, it really transfer the knowledge, transfer the FAQ into my current workflow, into my current experience, and it pop it up within my conversation with the customer. So as you can see, if there's an FAQ related to fiber optic internet, those knowledge are pulled from the knowledge base system and displayed into my customer support system. So no need to interrupt my flow, no need to go and search where I can find the information. It is there, it is transferred to the moment that I need it the most.
Yeah, this is it starts to get us into an area of passion for both of us, which is the fact that, you know, most knowledge is tacit. It's inside of our head. So, you know, when you take this tacit knowledge and expose it or organize it, you said FAQs or problem solving, et cetera. And then when you can tap into that as you're working, it becomes very, very powerful, very, very powerful. So that's what this use case, AI connected knowledge, is all about. Number four.
This use case was a little bit of positive surprise for me. I didn't know it exists. It's called digital worker. And when the first reaction was, okay, so how it is different from bots or from agents. And when I read further down more about this capability, those digital workers are different from bots. In fact, they have characteristics. They are collaborative, they are curious, and they are capable. And for every characteristic, there is a set of processes and set of work streams associated to every characteristics. For example, those are collaborative, so which means they can be hosted within a team and they can collaborate with peers, with humans, which is called human in the loop, and experts. They are curious, so they train themselves from repeated action. So the more they do the same task or the same type of task, they learn more at it and they become better at it. And they are capable. So this is beyond a business rule engine or any automation. They can intelligently process a document and they can deploy some intelligent capabilities. What's interesting as well, they can form a network of digital worker. So let's say in company A, I have deployed my digital worker. They are doing some HR related processes. And in company B, I deployed also the same digital worker doing the same set of HR related processes. They are both working, learning, and being more and more capable. They connect to each other. They can talk to each other, collaborate, and exchange their experiences. So as if they are human expert, exchanging their experiences. To which extent this going to be efficient? I didn't test it yet, but the idea seems very promising, and the use case of having digital workers working in different companies, but at the end they can connect, exchange their know-how, and be better at what they are doing.
You know, you and I have had the opportunity to partner on organizational network analysis or social network analysis. And this just, what I find fascinating here is that we talk about cohesion or degrees of separation. How far are you away from the optimal expert or somebody with expertise or the knowledge object, piece of knowledge? And I can just imagine here where you're analyzing those gaps with these digital workers, and you're shortening those degrees of separation so that people can make optimal decisions, et cetera, again, in the flow of how they're working. So I just find this to be a fascinating potential use case.
Yeah. Now we come to the most popular use case, AI recommendation engine, insights engine, and recommendations. So the traditional search engine, the results are listed. We have a bullet points or a set of links, and we need to navigate through every link or page or resource, read and get the information. The next generation of search engines, semantic search engines, are powered by AI, and they can go read the text, understand the text based on the LLM, and then return the relevant section where my answer is presented. So I don't need to read and go through all the links where the information or where my answer resides. It will be returned, so I can read it and gain some time and efficiency.
You know, so many organizations spend so much time and money on search engines. And if you can shortchange that, because in the end, it's not just the search engine, but you need a team of people working on that. And if you can, you can shortchange that by making it more effective in a shorter period of time, you can start to imagine here how this use case can really become powerful for folks in any organization.
And just to reiterate on very important point, as you mentioned, we should not really expect, if we deploy this AI solution or search engine, our problems or our database will be clean and we will get answers. There's some work should be done prior to implementation or implementing this AI use case. to clean the data, to organize it, to link it through taxonomy, to build some schema, some architecture, and then deploy the AI. So those are not really magical solutions. They require some prior work, some governance, some taxonomy work, and then we can augment it with those AI solutions.
I'm glad you inserted that comment because that's where the knowledge management foundational
Yes.
pieces come in
Yes.
that we'll talk about in the executive recommendations section.
Yep.
Next up.
Yes, this is interesting as well. It's called Smart Document Understanding. We have a lot of like unstructured data or even structured data or some kind of mass reports, either in PDF, in Word, or even from website content in the website. So this capability, it reads, it goes through the document, extract only the meaningful content. So it will dismiss the layout, the header, the table, extract those information and regenerate them into structured data format. So this format, it will be machine readable. I can take out those structured information, pass them through machine learning algorithms and do some kind of downstream activities, further processing or visualization or any kind of operation on those data.
Now, let me ask you a quick question here, because for me, there's tremendous importance in ensuring that the verification or validation of these types of summarized documents are as accurate as possible for an organization. How can you work and create the governance around the combination of AI and KM to ensure that these are validated documents so you can trust them?
Yeah, always we need the experts, even in the training phase of these capabilities, and further in the fine-tuning phase. So first, when we provide our LLM model with mass data or a mass number of documents, we need to supervise the training. And later on in the fine-tuning, we need to provide a set of questions, or set of real cases, validate the outcome, and validate the relevancy. And then at that point only, we can produce it or make it available for production. And even after production, we cannot really deploy it and forget it and say it will run and it will operate. Even after production, we always need to retrain and revalidate with the new data, with new set, because neural networks, which are the technology behind LLMs, they have this degradation phenomena effect. They forget after a while, or their performance degrade over time. That's why we need always this expert and human in the loop to always feed the new data, train and validate and fine tune the answers and the cases.
Great. Thank you for that insight. Next.
Yep. The next one, sentiment, intent analysis. This is all those use cases are really meaningful and provide a strong business case. And this is coming from the customer experience, or its most relevant is the customer experience and customer support. Let us take this example. We launched a new product or a service into the market, and then we got some feedback from the customers, and we conducted the NPS, Net Promoter Score, and we found out that our customers are passive or neutral, and we want to increase our Net Promoter Score. So this capability will go through all the feedback, analyze them, and then suggest actions. This is very important. This capability will suggest actions to improve our NPS score. So for example, one of the issues can be unable to log in. So after analysis, this capability can group and cluster the issues related to login service, and then it provides some kind of actions and will also predict by how much the NPS score will be increased. In this way, product management teams, technical teams can prioritize which issue to work on so they can improve their NPS score.
Let me ask you this quick question, because when I
Yeah.
think of sentiment analysis, I'm always thinking about an external viewpoint, which is important
Yeah.
because boundaries of organizations need to be porous in terms of the knowledge flow, et cetera. But can this be both internal sentiment analysis as well as external?
Yes, it can be both, but back to your point, we need to avoid biases. So we need to make sure our feedback or our audience is representative. If we take only a small audience or let's say a specific stakeholder group, our sentiment will be biased. So we need to have this coverage and this diversity in terms of stakeholders and feedback. So we have a real representation of what does our product and how our product or service is perceived into our internal or external customers.
Excellent. Next up, number 31.
Yep. Also, okay, content analytics. So here we are really talking about metadata enrichment. So what we are trying to do here is to extract automatically taxonomy and metadata, for example, classifiers, dictionary, ontology, some kind of keywords, lexicon patterns, or regular expressions from our documents and describe them using this kind of metadata. And how this is beneficial. For example, I have a set of videos, recorded videos, the same ones that we are recording right now. With the help of another capability, we can transcribe those videos into text, and then we can ingest those texts into the metadata enrichment, and those texts can be described with those classifiers and taxonomy. Why this is important? Because again, when we want to search again and reuse the content communicated in those videos, we can search the text, we can have better results, and then because we have done the metadata enrichment, then we can go and find which segment in the video between, for example, minute 10 and minute 11, our content was shared with the presenter. So metadata enrichment is good when we want to have more efficient search and more efficient reusability of our knowledge.
How about this though? Because you and I both know, and we've both done this work, is that we love to be able to flesh out that taxonomy, but then to make taxonomy, turn it into the competencies, capabilities, and skills of people. If you're going to document true certified experts and people with expertise, you're positioning those folks alongside key knowledge within your organization to provide more context. Because a lot of times, if I find something, say, for example, I want to be able to reach out, and I'm what I like to call, I'm chasing context. I need a little bit more information. I need something else because there's another factor that's involved, whatever it might be. So can we use this for that process of fleshing out those competencies, capabilities, skills to be able to start to define experts and expertise?
Yes, and I want to recall a term that I learned from you. It's called folksonomy. So there's a risk associated to this capability is we obtain folksonomy, which means a lot of keywords, a lot of classes that we got too much and too many of them, that we have later on, we have poor content associated to them. So that's why, again, we stress again and again on the governance piece and the process piece, how to extract, how to validate, how to verify. Definitely those AI capabilities will accelerate and will help us and will assist in suggesting and creating for us those terms. But later on, again, the experts and the relevant stakeholders need to get into the process of validating and verifying and turn those capabilities and those taxonomy into capabilities. So we want to associate different learning materials different content type, videos, audio, documents, wiki, to those categories, and then we can turn them into true capabilities where we can offer them into our employees. They can learn and they can share and develop more into their respective areas.
Very good point. I'm open to folksonomy from the standpoint of if it's going to be a suggested term that if you're the expert in the area that I can send to you from a governance standpoint to get you to review and approve as to where it may nest in terms of being a topic or a subtopic, for example. I'm okay and I'm open to that type of thing in terms of folksonomy, but yeah, definitely need the governance. So I'm glad you made that point. Let's transition to the next one.
Yes, the next one, it's again, it's semantic search and cognitive search. Dan, why not to present a demo on that specific capability, a practical demo where I can show what does it take to develop this cognitive search and the semantic search, and what are the precautions to consider when developing this kind of use case.
Totally agree. Let's do the demo, because the reason we're here is not just present the demo or present use cases. We want to really show some tangible results. So I'll let you take over. I think I have the session is open, so you can take over the screen.
Well, I appreciate it. Let me see the share. Okay, can you see my screen or not yet?
Yes, I can see it. You're good.
Okay, great. So before going into the demo, I'd like just to share the requirements, why we are doing this. Well, first of all, what we are trying to achieve is something called RAG, question answering, and RAG means retrieval augmented generation. So we have a set of documents, hundreds of documents, and we want to ask a question, and we want to have our answer coming from those documents, but in conversation style, like ChatGPT. So we are operating on our own data, and we want to generate those answers in a conversation style. There are many solutions, and today I can assure you, like, there's a wave of tools that do that or claim to do that. Those are third party. There are multiple challenges related to going to third party. First of all, those are hosted in the cloud. So our data will go to the cloud, even though some of them claim not to look into the data. Okay, I trust them. Personal data will be available. Some of them will be public, and some of them will be reused in training of other models. And you shared with me last time some kind of legal cases between OpenAI, Microsoft, and New York Times, to my memory, about training and reusing the content to train OpenAI to train their models from New York Times and other journals. We have, is that correct? Did I state it correctly then?
Yeah, it's part of what's coming upon us now. I call it the content wars, and there's constant battles out there about the content and who owns the rights, et cetera. I think we're going to see more and more of that. Back to you.
Yep. The third challenge is related to hallucination effect. When we don't provide our own data, or when we have too little data, there's some kind of hallucination. And hallucination in terms of AI, or in the context of AI, is defined as some kind of imaginative answer, or some kind of invented answer. We can turn down the temperature. Temperature is a factor in the LLM model, to turn it down into 0, so no hallucination. And we can turn it to 1 to say, make it most imaginative. And the fourth challenge is most of those third-party vendors, or even some kind of OpenAI, We have monthly subscription models. Yesterday, Microsoft Copilot, they launched Copilot Pro with $20 per user per month. And OpenAI, they are charging something similar, $20. That's for the public. And for the enterprises, it's $30 per user per month. So imagine the bill, what will happen at the end. And my requirements or my motivation to develop this kind of application is to host the data on my local machine. The personal data will remain private, and the answers will come from my data, augmented with the context and generated using naturally sounding human conversation. And of course, there's no subscription model, but there's, of course, a catch, and the catch is the maintenance. So you don't pay, but you have to maintain locally and internally. You have to maintain those models. So let's move to the demo. I'm using everything open source, like Mistral 7B, which is the LLM model, and I'm using a vector database. I will not go really into details, but just know there are 4 components for the RAG. So the orchestration framework, I'm using LangChain, large language model, I'm using the Mistral 7B, the vector database, ChromaDB, and my own content. And my own content is really very fundamental, basic, just for demo purposes. I have 2 reports, 2 PDF. I can have hundreds of PDF. The code will not change. And specifically what I want to share, it's important because this report, this is my thesis report, it makes around 220 pages. There are multiple chapters and there are multiple sections, and the same idea or similar ideas are presented in different sections in the document. And ideally, or the expected behavior from the tool is to search in all those sections, gather and retrieve the relevant sentences, the relevant paragraph, synthesize them, augment them with the context, and then generate the answer in a human-like conversation. So here, simply to visualize what we are trying to do, we have different paragraphs. We want to retrieve the relevant paragraph, augment them with the context, for example, the people. This is a standardization manager. Add them the impact on the business, and then formulate the answer. Okay, so if I run the application, okay, it's still a very basic application, but the objective is really to test the waters and see what does it take to build an application, a RAG application. Let me put my question. For example, what is the business impact of the collaborative standardization platform? Okay, it's running. Now what will happen? The orchestration framework will go and retrieve all the relevant paragraphs, pre-process them, tokenize them. Already I did the tokenization to save some time, and then synthesize all the answers into one paragraph and regenerate the answer using some kind of natural language. Okay, and everything here, just as a reminder, is happening locally on my machine. The data are on my machine, the model is on my machine, and the application is on my machine. So here you can see the query or the question. The result is improve the communication between the engineering process and tools team, R&D, product development, and the quality assurance groups. And here I can refer to the source. So I can go back to page 30 in the source in report.pdf and check the answer and read more, or if I want to develop more on the answer. And as well, here are all the sources that are coming. Maybe another question, just to finalize with another example. What is virtual collective framework? So again, there are multiple building blocks are executing, retrieving the relevant paragraph, synthesizing, and then regenerating the answer. So you can see the performance here is not outstanding because I'm running the application on my CPU. And that's this point we are going to discuss it later on, the infrastructure. To have a really well-performing application, we need to have a dedicated hardware. And I'm running this application on some general purpose hardware, my CPU. So you can see here the answer is a virtual collective framework propose a new way to understand and manage virtual collective and so on. And I can go back and check the source, which page. So there are 4 paragraphs, and the LLM, or what the application has done, it has synthesized and paraphrased and regenerate the question, the answer in its own style. The answer can be much more developed because I put here 1K word, so we can ask the model to generate more tokens. But here I'm keeping it simple and really to have some kind of balance between performance and between relevancy. So
Yeah.
that's overall the application.
So you showed us, the RAG model: retrieve, augment, and generate. It's
Yes.
a nice hors d'oeuvre. It's a nice appetizer to be able to show concretely how this can be put into play. So I appreciate you taking us out into a real world challenge and helping us imagine, with a bullpen of trusted, validated content, how we can start to think about how this can really make a difference in terms of the effectiveness of a knowledge worker and the efficiency time-wise, and boiling something down in a summary fashion, in that generation fashion. So let me,
yes,
if you stop sharing, let me share my screen and go back to our slides. Any other comments on before we transition into executive recommendations?
Yes, so what I'd like also to finalize on the RAG, we need governance again for the RAG. So again, to deploy this application and expect to run infinitely, it's really not a winning bet. We need again to include it into our continuous conversation cycle, which what I call it continuous conversation cycle 3C. We interact with the tool. We explore the possibilities. We need to validate what the tool is offering in terms of answers. We should not take it for granted. And then engage in discussions with our community, revalidate or develop new knowledge, because again, the AI doesn't create new knowledge. So new knowledge is created with our community, with our peers. And then retrain the model and fine-tune it again and keep it updated.
Excellent, excellent. So as we transition into our executive recommendations, which we'll run through in a fairly rapid fashion here, I love how you've put together the successful implementation, some of the kind of governance topics, if you will, with business value, process, the ethical application, continuous supervision and validation, AI, ML skills, and power computing, with quality and a training set there in the center there of this ecosystem. Any comments on this?
Yeah, so here is really I try to tackle the successful implementation from different perspective. Yes, the technology is important, but also the adoption is critical. And to have adoption, we need different players and different factors to take them into considerations. And we will dive into those elements.
Excellent. So principle number one, starting with the business value.
Yeah,
Paramount.
Dan, I still remember when I first met you, you were conducting the visioning exercise. So you gathered us in one room, we discussed together, we envisioned what are the use cases for our knowledge management program and what we are trying really to achieve. So this kind of destination has two implicitly advantages. The first one, clarity. We need to have clarity on what we are trying to achieve. And the second one, this kind of connectivity that will tie us together, the sense of community that we need to create to achieve together this destination. And this is really the first step to do whenever we want to deploy not only AI technology, but any project. To do this kind of exercise, work together, connect together, and have clarity of what we want to achieve.
Yeah, what you brought to the table, the root cause or fishbone and pain point analysis is so key because we were in such a big organization working together that if we just did not have governance in this area, we'd end up with people with good intentions, okay, establishing, their own communities, affinity groupings, et cetera, around and not tying it back to where it hurts the most and that business value. Principle number two, process integration.
Yes. Yeah, this is very, very important. The first, let's say, assumption to avoid is to consider AI or Gen AI as a separate technology or a separate system to deploy. The moment we consider it as another system or another tool, we will not drive adoption. We need to define those touch points in our workflow, into our processes, those interactive areas where we need to integrate Gen AI. For example, a logistics company want to optimize its delivery routes for shipment and for delivery. They are not going to deploy a new system. The existing system they are using to plan the transportation and to calculate the itinerary and the route planning, the same system should integrate and be augmented with Gen AI capabilities. And Gen AI knows really to do matching and pattern matching and correlations. And when Gen AI take into consideration the real-time traffic, the weather conditions, the historical delivery data, it can optimize the delivery route. So by integrating these capabilities into our existing processes and systems, this is where we can get the best out of it.
Yeah, great point. I mean, for me, process means circulatory system. And I go back to people's knowledge and tacit knowledge. I mentioned earlier, cohesion or degrees of separation. I'm not going to repeat myself there, but that comes into play when you want to think about process. Ethical application and governance there, this principle.
Yes, we tackled a little bit on our part one, being responsible and ethical. The last thing we want to avoid is to lose the trust with our customers. If we are not transparent with our customers, if we are not really involving them in the decision making, our customers need transparency and need to be involved into how the application is making decisions. And we need to avoid biases and any kind of misuse or some kind of fake use of the application. So, for example, if we are in a healthcare industry and we are developing some diagnosis application augmented with Gen AI, The system will not replace the doctors, it will aid them to make more accurate diagnoses, and the system should be transparent about its decision-making process. So it provides explanation of why this diagnosis or this recommendation was made. And we need to get the approval from the patient and from, in general, the user, that their personal data, their private data are used by the algorithms to do this kind of optimization. So being ethical, responsible, trustworthy are integral part of the successful adoption of any Gen AI application.
Absolutely. And you and I both know that healthcare, education, coding or
Yes.
programming, those are three leading areas. And you can start to get a feel for the ethical application and how important governance is there. Principle number 4, the quality training set at the center.
Yes, you told me once quality in, quality out. That's easy, as easy as it. If we don't have quality data, we should not expect Gen AI to solve our quality issues. We need our training data set to be diverse, representative, and free from biases. And we need to retrain, and we need to have a new training set every iteration and every epoch. For example, a credit assessment tool in the banking industry to make lending decisions. It needs to be unbiased, and we need to collect a diverse data set representing different demographics, financial backgrounds, and it should be carefully curated to eliminate any kind of gender or ethnicity within the decision-making process. Quality data selection, training of data being quality and representative is very critical.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you say data, I think of that hierarchical pecking order where we've got data, information, knowledge, insights, and wisdom. And I know when you're saying data, you're including all of that in there, and that bullpen of trusted content you can tap into internally needs to be organized like we've been talking about. Number 5, continuous supervision.
It is an extension for the training. We should not really expect to deploy those tools and forget about them. They need supervision. They are like babies. They need careful care and continuous verification and validation.
Yeah, and this gets us into where, developing certified experts and people with expertise that can help in the flow of how people work. It's a big challenge for organizations. And so how can you change that behavior to be able to develop that type of culture? Behavior individually becomes the culture of an organization. So you can start to imagine that this is the job of many, and that validation process in a many-to-many paradigm. Number 6.
Yeah, the skills, or what does it take to create or to form a team that is going to develop and deploy those technologies. And one of the motivation for me why I developed this project-based learning and this RAG application was to have better idea what type of skills do we need whenever when we want to develop this kind of technology. And what I found out, we need Python. This is 90% of the code is Python. We need someone who understands as a Gen AI in terms of pipelines and chains and semantic embedding features. So we need AI engineer. Also, we need some kind of front-end development, CSS, JavaScript. So we need different types of skills and expertise specific to Gen AI in collaboration and in harmony with our experts and the domain-specific experts.
Yeah, excellent. And number 7.
Yes, this technology is need investment. Investment in the infrastructure. We need high-performance computing. We mentioned in part 1 using those GPUs. If we are developing enterprise-wide application, we cannot rely on CPUs or general purpose hardware. We need to invest in our infrastructure, and we need also to have a trade-off, our decision between whether to have some kind of cloud-based service or internally. And security issues is a big factor whenever we want to decide whether to have on-prem our infrastructure or in the cloud.
Yeah, well, that's been a great summary of the executive recommendations and guiding principles in this ecosystem that you see here on the left. And let's go into the top 10 takeaways if you want to quickly go through these.
Yeah, so first one, Gen AI application landscape. Today we are talking more and more about multimodality. So the input is not anymore a text. It is a variety of content, including video, speech, codes, 3D objects, and so on. AI can assist in ideation, mind mapping, and creativity. It can help us into the creativity process. The key here is to construct our prompt, how we ask the question, the style, the tone, the format is very important. Reiterate on the question to get better and relevant answers. Jobs, Gen AI will not replace jobs. Instead, people who adopt Gen AI will replace those who are not adopting it. Gen AI, it can help us to create a personalized learning experience, a tailored experience, and it can help employees and early engineers to have a better onboarding experience. It can help us it can help our experts in problem solving. It can help us to provide insights and to provide some kind of suggestions. But all those applications need to be integrated within the flow of work, need to be governed, and need to be supervised continuously to have more accurate and relevant results. The future of AI, finally, is definitely in personalization and interactive. Gen AI will be an interactive technology where can I ask, have answers, and then feedback my input. And the more it is personalized, the more I will get value out of it.
This is a great set of takeaways. I'm sure that our audience will have some suggestions on additional ones as well. But one of the things you and I have attempted to do here as we've gone through part 1 and 2 is to include how important the human interactions and
Yes.
the people and the culture of an organization is in making this and putting it into play. And that brings us to the end. Now, we went a little bit over our 40-minute target, but I think it's okay. I knew we probably would because the use case portion is so robust. And I just want to, based on the interest that we have, we can go back and cover some of the other use cases maybe in a part 3, or we could even go on further and cover those in kind of bite-sized pieces like we did today. Final comments, Rashad, as we come to the end here of part 2?
Yes, we try to cover Gen AI from different perspectives, from strategy, from process, from technology, from governance. Every case should be studied and evaluated separately. That's why we'll be glad to have one-to-one sessions. You can contact us, you can see our email addresses, and we will be glad to have separate sessions one-to-one.
And remember, everybody, most of the knowledge is tacit inside of our heads. So that's why it's so important to have a solid knowledge management and collaborative foundation as you think about integrating that type of knowledge into your AI strategy. So thanks again, Rashad. You've been a real leader on putting all this together. It's been excellent, and I've enjoyed talking to you about these topics.
My pleasure. Anytime. Thank you.